On their wedding day, Michael and Maria were celebrating with friends and family at their elegant reception. The festivities came to a sudden halt when an unkempt man in tattered clothes walked through the doors. As security moved towards him, he made his way to the center of the room, grabbed the microphone, and looked directly at Michael. With tears in his eyes, he began, "3 months ago, I was digging through your dumpster." What he revealed next left everyone in the room speechless. The elegant Riverside Hotel ballroom was alive with celebration. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the wedding reception as guests mingled, sharing stories and laughter. Michael and Maria, the newlyweds, were basking in the joy of their special day, surrounded by those they held dear. The band played soft music as servers weaved through the crowd with trays of champagne, and the evening had all the markings of a perfect celebration. No one expected what happened next. The main doors swung open, and conversations froze mid-sentence. An unkempt man in worn-out clothes stepped into the ballroom. His beard was untrimmed, his clothes stained and torn. He looked completely out of place among the well-dressed wedding guests. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Whispers rippled through the crowd. At a nearby table, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, longtime residents of the neighborhood, exchanged knowing glances. Mrs. Thompson leaned toward her husband, muttering about how this was exactly what she'd warned everyone about. Michael's restaurant being in that part of town was bound to attract trouble. Other guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some had previously criticized Michael's approach to handling the homeless people who frequented the area around his restaurant. While other business owners called the police, Michael was known for his different approach. Several guests had witnessed him offering food to those in need, much to their disapproval. Security personnel stationed at the corners of the room began moving through the crowd. Their faces were stern, hands ready at their sides. This was exactly the kind of situation they were hired to prevent. At the head table, Michael's body language changed dramatically. He had been sharing a lighthearted moment with his groomsmen, but now his shoulders tensed and his smile vanished. He recognized the man, though none of his guests could understand why. His best man, noticing the change, placed a steady hand on Michael's shoulder, ready to intervene if needed. The mysterious visitor moved with surprising purpose. Despite his disheveled appearance, there was something oddly dignified about his movement. He wasn't stumbling or causing a scene. He walked straight and steady toward the center of the room. Maria, radiant in her wedding gown, watched her new husband's reaction with growing concern. The joy of their perfect day seemed to hang in the balance. What connection could Michael possibly have to this stranger? Before security could reach him, the man raised his hand in a polite gesture. His voice, clear and steady, surprised everyone as he asked permission to say a few words. The room fell into an uneasy silence. The man took the microphone, and what he said next would change everything. He began his story 3 months earlier, behind Michael's restaurant. The man described how he had been searching through the dumpster one cold evening, looking for anything that might help him survive another night on the streets. It was a story all too familiar to those who lived rough, the daily struggle to find food, to maintain dignity in a world that often looked right through them. But this story took an unexpected turn. Unlike other business owners who would chase away homeless people with threats and police calls, Michael had approached him differently that night. While most would have seen a nuisance to be removed, Michael had seen a fellow human being in need. The night had been particularly cold, and many others had already turned the man away from their establishments. The man described how Michael had come out of his restaurant, not with anger or disgust, but with genuine concern in his eyes. What Michael did next revealed volumes about his character. Without hesitation, without knowing anything about the man's background or story, Michael had offered him not just a meal, but something far more valuable, an opportunity. He had invited him into his kitchen, offering him a chance to work, to rebuild his life. The man's voice grew stronger as he continued. He revealed that he had been documenting these moments, carefully recording every interaction. He spoke of watching Michael from afar, observing his daily acts of kindness. How Michael would package extra food at closing time, making sure no one in the area went hungry. How he would stop and listen to people's stories, treating each person with respect and dignity when others wouldn't even make eye contact. The room remained silent, hanging on every word. The same guests who had been whispering disapprovingly earlier now sat transfixed. But there was more to come, much more. Turning to Maria, the man's voice filled with emotion. He told her that she hadn't just married a successful restaurant owner. She had married someone rare in today's world, a truly good man. Someone who showed compassion not for recognition or praise, but because it was simply who he was. A man who offered dignity to those society had forgotten, who saw humanity where others saw only problems to be solved. The man's voice began to change subtly. His words became more articulate, his presence more commanding. Some guests started to lean forward, a spark of recognition in their eyes. There was something familiar about his cadence, his way of crafting words. Then came the moment that left everyone speechless. The man revealed his true identity, James Morrison, the celebrated author whose books had topped bestseller lists for years. The same James Morrison whose works had moved millions, whose stories had captured hearts across the nation. He had been living undercover, experiencing homelessness firsthand for his latest book about America's hidden homeless crisis. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Several guests clutched their chests in shock, recognizing the voice that had narrated audiobooks they'd listened to countless times. The transformation from homeless man to literary icon happened before their eyes as James stood straighter, his dignified bearing now making perfect sense. Maria, overcome with emotion, couldn't hold back her tears. She rose from her seat and embraced Michael, who stood there looking both touched and embarrassed by the attention. The same Mr. and Mrs. Thompson who had been complaining earlier now sat in stunned silence, their earlier judgments hanging heavy in the air. Michael, true to his nature, simply shrugged off the praise. His face reddened slightly as he maintained that he had only done what any decent person would do, a statement that only proved James's point about his character. The guests who knew Michael best nodded in recognition. This was exactly the kind of humble response they'd expect from him. Even in this moment of recognition, he remained focused on others rather than himself. The author had one final surprise. He announced that all proceeds from the chapter featuring Michael's story would be donated to local homeless shelters, ensuring that his act of kindness would continue to help others in need. As James prepared to leave, he left behind a wedding gift, a signed copy of his upcoming book. Inside, he had written a message that would resonate with everyone who heard this story. True character isn't found in grand gestures, but in the quiet moments when we think no one is watching. The wedding reception continued, but something had changed. Guests who had arrived expecting just another celebration left with something more, a powerful reminder about judgment, compassion, and the impact one person's kindness can have on the world. And you, would you have shown the same kindness as Michael if you found someone searching through your dumpster?